When you think of travel, you probably picture stunning landscapes, exciting adventures, and immersing yourself in new cultures. But for Black travelers, the reality can be much harsher. Unfortunately, there are countries where being Black can lead to harassment, discrimination, and sometimes even violence. It's a sad truth that in today's age, some places are still very unsafe for Black people, and that's what we're going to talk about today. In this video, we're diving into the 10 most racist countries where Black people face extreme hostility. These are places where the color of your skin can get you banned, mistreated, or worse. And to back it up, these are based off real stories and statistics. Number 10. Italy. Italy is well known for its rich history, but it's also notorious for its racism, especially in cities like Naples and Bologna. According to Italy's National Institute of Statistics, racially motivated crimes have surged in recent years. In 2020, a Black Italian athlete was spat on and called racial slurs while in Naples, sparking national outrage. Additionally, the ongoing crisis of immigration by Africans in Lampedusa has caused huge tension between Italian citizens and Black people. If you're Black and planning a visit, it's best to stick to more open-minded areas like Rimini. Number 9. Georgia. Georgia may be beautiful, but for Black people, it can be a nightmare. Nigerians in particular face brutal discrimination. Racial slurs and insults are common, and Black visitors are often subject to degrading treatment. In fact, a 2020 report by the Africa Report detailed how Nigerians were targeted by Georgian law enforcement, facing unfair arrests and hostility. It's clear, if you're Black, Georgia's not the place to go. Number 8. Romania. Romania is another place where Black people, which make up only 0.01% of the population, are often stared at, mocked, and discriminated against. While the open hostility might not be as intense as in some countries, the racial tension is real. Reports by Amnesty International have highlighted how Black Romanians and African immigrants face significant barriers to employment and social integration, often being treated as second-class citizens. Number 7. Macedonia. Macedonia might not be the first place you'd expect racism, but for Black travelers, it's a minefield. Racial slurs are hurled at Black people openly. According to a 2021 European Union report on racial discrimination, Macedonia has one of the highest rates of racial harassment in the region, with Black travelers often being the prime targets. Additionally, the absence of a sizable Black community only heightens the level of ignorance and aggression toward Black visitors. Number 6. Argentina. Argentina's racism problem is rooted in its history of downplaying the existence of its Black population. Though Afro-Argentinians make up a significant part of the country's history, today they're often treated as invisible. A study published by the University of Buenos Aires in 2020 found that Black people face systemic racism, particularly in employment and law enforcement, where racial profiling is rampant. The narrative that there are no Black people in Argentina only further fuels the problem. Number 5. Egypt. Egypt, despite being part of Africa, has a deep-seated problem with colorism and racism toward Black people, particularly those from sub-Saharan Africa. A study published by the Egyptian Center for Economic and Social Rights found that sub-Saharan African migrants frequently report being subjected to racial slurs, physical abuse, and unfair treatment by the police. Black travelers have often been left feeling unwelcome and unsafe, with locals trying to often scam them and treat them as lesser beings. Number 4. Russia. Russia has a serious racism problem. Black people, especially African students, often face violence and racial profiling. According to a case study, racially motivated crimes in Russia have been steadily rising, with more than 100 recorded attacks on non-white individuals in 2019 alone. This number has increased ever since. Black travelers are at risk of both verbal abuse and physical violence, with little to no protection from law enforcement. Number 3. China. China's racism against Black people gained international attention during the recent pandemic, when African residents in Guangzhou were evicted and forced into quarantine based solely on their race. Human Rights Watch documented several cases where landlords and hotels refused to serve Black customers, forcing them to sleep on the streets. Blackface still appears on TV, and racial slurs are common in Chinese media, showing just how ingrained this racism is in this country. Number 2, India. In India, colorism is a massive issue, but the treatment of black people goes beyond that. African students and immigrants in cities like Delhi and Bangalore are often subjected to racist attacks. In 2016, a Nigerian man was beaten to death by an angry mob, sparking international outrage. Unfortunately, incidents like this are not isolated. The African Students Association in India reported over 200 cases of racially motivated violence against its members that same year. Number 1, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a complex history with race, and black people often face discrimination, especially African migrants. A 2020 report by Human Rights Watch found that African migrants, particularly from Ethiopia and Somalia, were frequently detained and subjected to inhumane treatment. While Saudi Arabia no longer has slavery, the stigma against black people, particularly black workers, remains strong. Many are denied basic rights and face severe abuse. It's shocking that in 2024, black people still face such widespread racism across the world. From outright violence to more subtle forms of discrimination, it's important to know which places are unsafe for black travelers. Let us know in the comments if you've had experiences in any of these countries. Stay informed, stay safe, and thanks for watching Global Nomad.